Live look from the world's busiest airport. Going to be bringing you a lot of information as we all get ready for Saturday night into Sunday. Meteorologist Chesley McNeil has been warning us for days. Chesley, what are you seeing in the models now?
Well, not much change. We're looking at from Atlanta up to the northeast where we think significant ice could form or at least accumulate in those areas. That's going to be very devastating. And I hope folks that are listening to us from Atlanta northeastward will have their plans ready because I think there's going to be numerous power outages. I think that ice will accumulate in a way that you won't be able to get out. Even walking will be difficult. And you don't want to be out and about and stuff like that, not only because of the ice on the roads, but because falling limbs.
Yeah.
People forget about that,
Yeah.
Yeah, that ice weighs down things. And so we're talking about a 11 live weather impact for Saturday and Sunday. Mainly Saturday afternoon is when I think things will begin, mainly up in the far northwest first, and then make its way down toward the metro area. So we could be talking about Saturday night by the time that ice starts to move into our area. But we're talking about freezing rain. That's what we're talking about. Freezing rain comes down as liquid. So if you're looking at it from a window, you're thinking, oh, it's just raining outside. But when it makes contact with surfaces, that's where you start to see it ice over. And the more that takes place, the higher those amounts will start to form on some of those surfaces. So we're talking about maybe as much as an inch, and that's very heavy, which is why an area in our forecast area has been blocked out as far as an ice storm warning. What does that mean? Well, we could see as much as 3/4 of an inch of ice or even an inch of ice up to the north and west or north and east of the city. So you're talking about Forsyth County, Dawson County, northeast up toward Rabun County, as far east as Elbert County, and then on into South Carolina. Could that area grow? Certainly it could, but that's the bullseye that we're looking at right now. That's what the models are showing us. The National Weather Service agrees with that, and so that's what we're looking at. Now, outside of that, you're talking about Atlanta, over toward Georgia's Rome, almost down into Macon, you're looking at maybe up to a 1/2 inch of ice. And even that could cause a lot of problems in our area, and really cripple a city. We've seen that in the past. We know that to be the case. You're looking at the models. We're looking at this and really all week long, and notice how they're coming into more of an agreement as we're starting to get closer to that storm coming our way. The more models get into an agreement, the more the confidence goes up that we're thinking, which is why the National Weather Service went ahead and issued that warning in that area. Look at our model here that shows ice accumulation by the inches. Up there to the north, so Murrayville, Talking Rock, northeastward up toward Tiger, which is in Rabun County. That's that pink area there. You look at our legend there, and that equals about an inch of ice. So anywhere between a 1/2 inch to an inch of ice in that area. You come a little bit further down to the south, you're looking at 3/4 of an inch to a 1/2 inch down toward the metro area. It starts to fall off from there. We have a model that shows some of that purple further down to the south over into Atlanta. So Atlanta, I would say anywhere from a 1/10 of an inch up to a 1/2 inch. Possible. There'll be some locally heavy spots. What does that cause? Well, when you talk about a 1/10 of an inch, you're talking about glazing taking place over certain surfaces of your car. If you have a wooden patio, easily to ice over. Elevated surfaces, easy. 1/4 of an inch, you're talking about numerous power outages with that, limbs breaking, so walking around is not even safe at that particular point. And then a 1/2 inch over, total devastation. You're talking about power lines breaking at that particular point. I think I described it earlier, like if you have your mailbox, for example, that ice gets on top of your mailbox and it weighs it down so much that even the pole underneath could break,
Wow.
right, if it's a wooden pole, right, because it's so heavy. And so, and the wind's blowing as well. So all that combined just will lead to devastation in our area. You have the clouds in place right now. It's warm enough that if we have any precipitation, it'll be in the form of rain. The clouds will hold on for much of the day, even into tomorrow morning. Temperatures are in the 40s for the most part this morning, so we're sitting above the freezing mark. Now notice back toward Dallas, Texas. It's all rain right now. Just a little bit to the north, over into Oklahoma City, up toward Omaha, those temperatures are down, and it will continue to sink to the south. And so what you see over toward Dallas, I would say by this afternoon, as early afternoon, will start to change over into freezing rain. And that's going to continue to spread further over toward the east because that cold air will be making its way down to the south. We won't see it until tomorrow afternoon. Today, we just have the clouds in place. Clouds stay in place through the overnight. We'll start you off with temperatures in the 40s, so it's going to be mild enough that even if we had the precipitation, it would be in the form of rain. But moving into our far northwestern counties by mid-morning, early afternoon will be some of that freezing rain, maybe even snow in the higher elevations, and then it starts to spread a little bit further down to the south. So that by the time we get to the evening, now we're looking at that freezing rain. Now notice how it really overtakes the area in the wee hours of the morning. Hopefully this is a sweet spot for us where most folks are already off the roads, they're in their homes, they're sleeping, and so you got the heaviest of the precipitation coming down in the form of freezing rain. That ices things over right there. Sunday morning, Church is already canceled. You don't have to worry about getting up early and getting out, maybe doing it virtually. That would be the best bet right there, because we're going to have that icing taking place as we head right on through the afternoon. Then the heavy rain comes in before it begins to taper off. Now you're probably thinking, okay, well, now you're talking rain. The temperature's warmed up a little bit. Yeah, we got that southerly flow. See those winds out of the south? The question's going to be, how quickly will that wedge that we often talk about as meteorologists begin to break down? How quickly will that happen? That's the question mark still, Dan, that we'll be looking at, so that by 5 o'clock on Sunday, are we still looking at icing taking place, or now are we looking at the rain overtaking it before it wraps up? So we'll be watching that very closely as we get into the storm and watching it in. So that moves further off to the east. We start to dry it out, but here comes that cold air, baby. I'm talking about temperatures down around the freezing mark all day on Monday, going down to the teens overnight going into Tuesday. We'll start off at 15. So that means anything that came down as rain is still wet on the roadways. That's going to refreeze. All right. And so you'll have these patchy spots of ice, which is not going to be safe for the roads. Let GDOT get out there and treat those, get them out the way, so that by the time we get to Tuesday, Wednesday, we can probably now start going back out to work and back out to school by then. Long duration of this, Dan, going into it. So patience is going to be needed. The good news is that you have us. Yep. Right? 11 Alive Plus, man, you can turn us on. We'll be your entertainment and let you know what's going on in your neighborhood. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, we're going to have a ton of information coming your way all weekend long. Chesley, just put this in perspective for us. I mean, we had Snowmageddon 10 years ago. Your wife got caught in that.
Oh, yeah.
Is this a once-in-a-decade type winter event, or even more sporadic than that?
I've been around here for like 14 years. Ice is rare in my 14 years, right? Normally it's like we get to snow. What happens, even when we talk about Snowmageddon, we had 2 inches of snow, but it was pressed down into ice, which caused the sliding. Now, this is going to be straight ice, so this is worse. Of all the winter weather that we could get, freezing rain is what you don't want. We'd rather have the sleet. We'd rather have the snow. We can get some traction in snow. It's easier to clear off the roads, right, with snow, not ice. It sticks. It weighs you down, causes all kinds of devastation. And so this is going to be one for the ages, as you mentioned.